The stars glimmered like distant jewels against the endless black of space. Commander Lyria Taven stood on the bridge of the starship Erebus, her sharp eyes scanning the holographic map hovering before her. She had always believed her galaxy was vast, dangerous, and above all, predictable. Every race she had encountered had rules, limitations, and clear weaknesses. Every species she had faced had been studied, catalogued, and, if necessary, defeated, until now. The sensor alarms blared softly, a gentle yet insistent warning that something was approaching the Erebus. Lyria leaned forward, her gloved hand resting on the control console. "Report," she demanded, her voice calm but edged with tension. "Unknown vessel," Lieutenant Mara replied, her fingers flying over the touchpad. "No identification signals. Energy signature. Human." Lyria froze. "Human? That's impossible. Humans don't exist outside of old colony records. They were thought extinct nearly 4 centuries ago." Mara hesitated. "That's what the databases say, Commander. But this signature, it's strong. Extremely strong, and it's moving directly toward us, unshielded." A chill ran down Lyria's spine. She had encountered some of the deadliest warriors in the galaxy. The Varkari raiders, whose claws could shred a starship's hull, and the Aelari, whose minds could manipulate entire fleets into confusion. But humans? They were supposed to be myths, a cautionary tale for young officers. The thought that one could still exist and be powerful enough to approach her flagship was unsettling. "Open a channel," Lyria ordered, trying to steady her voice. A moment later, a holographic figure flickered into existence before her. Tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in armor that seemed almost alive with energy, the human's presence dominated the room. His eyes were a piercing blue, steady and unafraid, scanning the bridge as if he already knew the layout. Lyria's mouth went dry. "Identify yourself!" "I am Kale Draven," the human said, his voice deep and calm. "I have come to warn you." "Warn me? About what?" Lyria demanded, though every instinct in her body screamed that she should already know. Kale's gaze did not waver. "About the collapse of your alliances. About the enemy that hunts not only your kind, but every intelligent species in this sector. They are coming. And you will not survive without humans." Lyria's heart pounded. She had faced countless threats, but this was different. The databases had claimed humans were extinct because they had fought and won wars that left no survivors. They were supposed to be gone, their stories reduced to myths, and yet here one stood, calm, confident, unbroken. "You expect me to trust a human?" she asked, trying to keep her tone steady. Kale tilted his head slightly, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "You have no choice. Either you trust me or you face annihilation. Your fleets are strong, but even they will fall." The bridge fell silent. Crew members exchanged nervous glances, some reaching for their weapons. Lyria felt the weight of command pressing down harder than ever. Every decision she made now could mean life or death for thousands. "Explain," she said finally. Kale stepped closer, and though the hologram shimmered faintly, his presence felt solid, real, undeniable. "Your galaxy is on the brink of war with a force you cannot understand. The Arca-Dominion spreads like a virus, consuming planets, enslaving minds, leaving nothing but ruin. You have fought them in small skirmishes and you have survived, but you underestimate their power. I have seen their fleets, their weapons, and their strategy. Without humans, you will not last." Lyria's fingers tightened around the edge of the console. "Why humans? Why now?" Kale's eyes softened. "Humans have a way of fighting that no other species possesses. We adapt, we endure, we surprise. We do not rely on technology alone. We rely on courage, instinct, and the will to survive. And that is what your galaxy needs now." A quiet murmur ran through the crew. Many had only heard of humans in stories, brave, nearly unstoppable warriors who had once defended entire sectors alone. Now one had appeared in front of them, alive, warning them of a threat beyond comprehension. Lyria studied Kale. She could sense it, the strength radiating from him, not just physical, but mental. He seemed calm, controlled, yet capable of violence beyond anything her training could prepare her for. And most of all, he was human. That alone should have meant weakness, but instead, it felt like power. "Very well," she said, her voice firm. "If what you say is true, then you will help us. But know this, we do not follow legends. We follow facts. Prove to me that humans are not just stories. Kale's lips curved into a faint smile. I intend to. The warning came almost immediately after. A ripple of energy struck the Erebus, shaking the ship violently. Red lights flashed across the bridge and the hum of the engines wavered. Shields holding at 60%, Mara reported, her voice tight. They're attacking! Lyria's eyes narrowed. All weapons, prepare to return fire. Kale moved swiftly, his holographic form now interacting with the ship's systems. No, he said firmly. You will not fight them yet. Their strategy is designed to lure you into a trap. Follow my lead. Lyria hesitated, then nodded. Every instinct screamed caution, but there was no time to waste. She trusted him, not because she believed in humans, but because she saw the undeniable truth of Kale's presence. He was strong. He was here, and he knew what was coming. Kale's hologram flickered and then solidified, showing him more clearly than before. He raised his hand and the energy fields around the Erebus shimmered, forming a protective barrier that pushed back the enemy attack. The crew gasped, watching as this human, this supposed myth, manipulated technology in ways they had never imagined. They're testing us, Kyle said, his eyes scanning the holographic battlefield. They want to see how far we can be pushed. Do not falter. Humans endure. Lyria felt a strange surge of hope. For the first time in years, she felt the tide of fear shift. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but here was a warrior who could face anything, and perhaps lead them all through the coming storm. The attack ended as suddenly as it had begun, leaving the Erebus unharmed but tense. Kale stepped forward. This is only the beginning. The Arca Dominion will not wait. They will come again stronger. And next time, they will bring more than scouts. You must prepare. Lyria took a deep breath, her mind racing. She had thought humans were extinct, that their stories were just myths meant to inspire fear or hope. Yet here one stood before her, confident, unyielding, and alive. Then we prepare, she said finally, her voice steady. If humans are truly warriors, then perhaps we are not as alone as we believed. Kyle nodded, a quiet strength radiating from him. You are not alone, and together, we will face what is coming. Humans fight, yes, but we survive, and survival is just the beginning. As the stars outside the Erebus stretched into streaks of light from their sudden jump through space, Lyria felt something she hadn't in decades. Certainty. The galaxy was dangerous, yes, full of enemies who would destroy them without mercy, but now a human warrior stood with them. And perhaps, just perhaps, hope was no longer a myth, and so, with the first warning of war echoing through the void, a new alliance began, one that would test the limits of courage, strength, and the extraordinary potential of humanity. The Erebus drifted silently through the empty void after the sudden attack, its engines quietly humming as the crew worked to assess the damage. Commander Lyria Taven stood on the bridge, her arms crossed, eyes fixed on the stars. She could still feel the residual energy of the human warrior's shield lingering in the air, a strange warmth amid the cold emptiness of space. Kale Draven, standing near the navigation console, observed the crew with calm precision. His presence was commanding, though unassuming, and the officers could not help but notice how even the most skilled of them seemed slightly uneasy in his proximity. Damage report, Lyria said, her voice steady but cautious. Lieutenant Mara spoke quickly. Minor hull abrasions on the starboard side. Shields absorbed most of the attack, no casualties, but we've never seen technology like that. His energy fields, they're unlike anything in our databases. Kale nodded. I adapted the shields temporarily. Their weapons exploit weaknesses in your systems. If we face them again, those weaknesses could be fatal. Lyria's brow furrowed. And you just knew how to fix it? Kale's gaze was unwavering. Humans have a knack for improvisation. We see patterns others miss. We survive by thinking differently. A silence filled the bridge, the weight of his words pressing heavily. Lyria had led fleets, commanded hundreds of officers, and studied countless species. She had seen fear, courage, cunning, and strength. But Kale's words carried a certainty she had never encountered. The calm was broken when the communications officer, Ennis, announced, Commander, we are picking up a distress signal from a nearby research station. It's faint, but it seems deliberate. Lyria straightened. Put it through. Let's see who is calling for help. The holographic display shifted, showing a small research station orbiting a barren planet. Its lights flickered erratically, a clear sign of malfunction or sabotage. From the wavering transmission came the voice of a panicked scientist. Attacked. Systems failing. Dominion forces must evacuate. The message cut out abruptly. Lyria's jaw tightened. It's them. The Arca Dominion. Kale's eyes narrowed. We should move quickly. Delay could mean the station's destruction, and the Dominion will leave nothing behind. Helm set course for the station. Maximum warp, Lyria ordered. As the Erebus leapt through space, Kale walked past the bridge, his movements fluid and purposeful. Lyria watched him, noticing the way his eyes scanned every system, every crew member, every potential weakness. He wasn't just confident. He was aware, prepared, and precise. You have led armies? Lyria asked quietly, almost to herself. Kyle shook his head. I've faced wars in different ways. Not as generals, but as a fighter. Humans fight differently. We survive when others fail. Lyria's thoughts wandered. She had always prided herself on strategy and planning, on control. But Kale's confidence wasn't just skill, it was instinct. And instinct, she knew, was a dangerous thing when wielded by someone capable. Minutes later, the Erebus dropped out of warp near the research station. The planet below was barren and rocky, its surface scarred with craters and jagged peaks. The station floated like a wounded bird, its hull dented, lights flickering, and life support failing. Lyria turned to Kyle. You go with the boarding team. Your skills might be necessary. Kale nodded. Understood. The boarding shuttle detached from the Erebus, carrying Lyria, Kale, and a team of elite officers. The shuttle's engines roared softly as they descended toward the station. Inside, chaos reigned. Broken equipment, smoke-filled corridors, and the faint sound of alarms created a tense atmosphere. The crew moved cautiously, scanning every room for threats. They could be anywhere, Mara whispered. Kyle led the way, his movements precise and silent. Stay alert. The Dominion often leaves traps. They like fear. As they advanced, a sudden noise echoed down the corridor, a metallic clang followed by a low hum. Shadows moved along the walls, too fast to be human. Lyria tensed, reaching for her weapon, but Kale raised a hand. Wait, he said. His eyes scanned the shadows. In an instant, he moved forward, faster than anyone could react. A sharp flash of light, a controlled pulse of energy, and the shadow dissipated. Lyria blinked. How? Kale's calm voice cut through the tension. They underestimate humans. Speed, perception, intuition. We notice things others don't. You adapt or you die. The team pressed on, moving deeper into the station. They reached the main laboratory, where several scientists were trapped behind a reinforced door. The locks had been sabotaged, and a faint energy field shimmered around the entrance. Kale stepped forward. Let me. He examined the panel, his fingers dancing over the interface with a confidence that amazed even Lyria. Within moments, the locks clicked open. The scientists rushed out, gasping for air, their eyes wide with relief. One of them, an older man with graying hair, looked at Kale and said, You're human. We thought your kind was extinct. Kale gave a small nod. Not extinct. Just rare. Lyria watched silently, a mixture of awe and curiosity forming in her mind. Humans were thought to be myths, legends of a time when they had fought against impossible odds. Yet here was proof that they were real and more powerful than she could have imagined. Suddenly, the station shook violently. Red lights flashed again, alarms blared, and debris fell from the ceiling. Mara shouted, Structural collapse imminent! Kale moved instantly, assessing the situation. We need to evacuate now. The team raced toward the shuttle bay, dodging falling panels and sparks. Kale cleared the path, his movements precise, ensuring no one was left behind. Once aboard the shuttle, the station erupted behind them. Explosions rocked the hull, sending fragments into space. Lyria stared out the window, watching the destruction, feeling the weight of what could have been lost. Kyle, she said, her voice quiet. How did you... He shook his head. Humans survive. That's all you need to know. Back on the Erebus, Lyria convened the bridge crew. This is only the beginning, she said firmly. The Dominion is not just a threat, they are relentless. And if Kale is right, they will return, stronger and smarter. Kale stepped beside her, his expression calm yet commanding. Then we must prepare. Your fleets are strong, but to face the Dominion, strategy alone is not enough. You need humans, and their way of thinking. Lyria looked at him, her mind racing. Humans had survived wars that annihilated entire fleets. They had defied odds that others could not. And now, One of them stood beside her, willing to fight for the galaxy she had sworn to protect. "Then we train," she said finally. "We adapt, and we survive." Kale's eyes gleamed with quiet confidence. "Good, survival is only the first step. Once you understand how humans fight, you will see possibilities no one else imagines." The crew of the Erebus went to work immediately. They assessed defenses, studied Kale's techniques, and began preparing for the next inevitable attack. Lyria noticed something she hadn't felt in years, a spark of hope. Not blind hope, but the kind born from certainty and strength. Hours later, as the Erebus drifted in orbit, Kale stood beside Lyria, gazing at the stars. "Your galaxy has potential," he said softly. "But potential means nothing without courage. Are you ready to follow humans into war?" Lyria turned to him, her face resolute. "I am ready. And if humans fight with us, maybe we will finally see victory." Kyle smiled faintly. "Then let's not waste time. The Dominion waits for no one." As night fell over the barren planet below, the Erebus shone like a lone beacon in the dark. Its crew, led by Commander Lyria and the first human warrior they had ever seen, prepared for the war that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The battles ahead would test courage, strength, and the extraordinary potential of humanity. And Kale Draven, calm and unyielding, would show them all what it truly meant to fight like a human. The Erebus cruised through the quiet void of space, but silence was fleeting. The calm that had followed the rescue of the research station felt temporary, fragile. Commander Lyria Taven stood at the bridge, her gaze fixed on the distant stars, but her mind was already calculating strategies for the inevitable confrontation with the Arca Dominion. Kale Draven remained at her side, his expression calm yet focused. Unlike anyone Lyria had ever known, he did not appear burdened by fear or uncertainty. There was a quiet strength in his presence, a sense that no matter what came, he would face it head-on. "Commander," Lieutenant Mara said, breaking the tension, "we've received intelligence from Allied fleets. The Dominion has begun mobilizing forces near the Arendor sector. Their fleet is larger than we anticipated. They're planning a coordinated strike on multiple systems." Lyria's jaw tightened. "How long before they reach those systems?" "Hours, maybe a day," Mara replied. "They're fast. And from what we've seen, they're relentless." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Then we don't wait. We strike first," Lyria frowned. "Strike first? Against a fleet larger than ours? That's reckless," Kale shook his head. "Not reckless, strategic. Humans fight differently. We create advantages where others see none. We use speed, surprise, and adaptability. You want to survive? Then you must think like us." The bridge fell silent. Lyria had spent years studying strategy, commanding fleets in precise formations, relying on calculated maneuvers. Yet there was something in Kale's words, a logic born of instinct, courage, and experience that challenged everything she knew. "We'll prepare a small strike team," Lyria said finally, her voice steady. "You will lead it. But failure is not an option, Kale." Kale gave a slight nod. "Understood. But remember, humans survive. That is always the first step to victory." The plan was set. The Erebus would approach the Arendor sector under stealth, sending Kyle and an elite team to intercept Dominion forces before they could devastate the systems. Lyria watched as Kale prepared himself, observing the way he checked his equipment, his movements precise, almost ritualistic. Every gesture carried confidence, every glance calculated. As the shuttle detached from the Erebus, Kyle stood at the front, scanning the sector. The stars stretched past them, cold and distant, but his focus was unwavering. "They'll try to anticipate our moves," he said quietly to the team. "We need to be unpredictable. Watch for patterns, exploit gaps, and above all, survive." The shuttle approached the Dominion fleet. Massive warships loomed like dark mountains against the void, their energy weapons humming with lethal potential. Kale's team braced themselves, tension thick in the air. "On my mark," Kale whispered. "Strike fast, strike together, and remember, human instinct is our weapon." In a sudden burst of speed, the shuttle launched forward. Kale's team moved with precision, disabling Dominion drones and intercepting patrols. The first skirmish was swift, brutal, and efficient. Kyle's instincts guided every move, anticipating enemy attacks, predicting patterns, and exploiting weaknesses. "Human reflexes," one officer muttered, watching Kale dodge a plasma strike and counter with a pulse blast that disabled the enemy weapon instantly. Kale didn't pause. He moved from one target to another, his team following his lead. acting as extensions of his intuition. Every strike was calculated yet adaptive. Every decision was made in a heartbeat yet flawless. The Dominion forces, though superior in number and firepower, were caught off guard by the speed, precision, and unpredictability of human combat. Lyria monitored the battle from the Erebus, her eyes widening in astonishment. Humans were thought extinct because they had been underestimated, but Kale was proving that myth was far from the truth. His presence inspired the team, elevated their skills, and pushed the Dominion forces back in ways she had never imagined. Suddenly, a Dominion warship broke through the skirmish, its massive energy cannon charging. The shuttle team froze, realizing the strike could destroy them all in seconds. Kale's eyes narrowed, and in an instant he assessed every factor: the angle, the energy output, the timing. "Follow my lead," he shouted. Kyle activated a combination of shield pulses and evasive maneuvers that seemed almost impossible. The shuttle twisted and weaved through the beams of energy, narrowly avoiding destruction. Then, in a move no one could anticipate, Kale unleashed a concentrated pulse that disabled the Dominion cannon entirely. The warship shuddered and went dark, retreating from the battlefield. The team erupted in cheers, though Kale did not celebrate. His eyes were already scanning the sector, calculating the next move. "We're not done," he said calmly. "The Dominion always has another plan. We need to hit their command ship directly." Lyria's communication console flickered. "Kyle, the fleet here is in chaos, but the command ship is heavily shielded. Any direct attack could be suicidal." Kale's expression hardened. "Then we'll find a way. Humans survive impossible odds. That's what makes us dangerous." The shuttle raced toward the command ship. Kale's team moved in perfect synchronization, disabling shields, dodging patrols, and using every advantage available. Their speed and adaptability allowed them to bypass defenses that would have stopped any other species. Every move seemed to defy probability, yet Kale executed it flawlessly. When they reached the core of the command ship, Kale led the team inside. The interior was a maze of corridors and energy fields, but his instincts guided them like a beacon. Dominion officers tried to resist, but Kale's presence was overwhelming. Every strike, every decision, every movement was precise, leaving the enemy stunned and outmatched. Finally, they reached the command center. Kyle confronted the Dominion commander, a tall, armored figure with eyes cold and calculating. The two stared at each other, the weight of the battle heavy in the air. "You humans are extinct," the commander said, voice like steel. "Your kind is gone, and yet here you are, defying history." Kale's gaze was steady, unwavering. "Humans endure. We fight, we survive. That is who we are." With those words, Kale and his team moved in perfect harmony, neutralizing the commander and taking control of the command ship. The Dominion fleet, leaderless and confused, began to retreat. The Arendor sector was safe, for now. Back on the Erebus, Lyria exhaled in relief. Kale's success was unprecedented. He had faced overwhelming odds and won, not through brute force alone, but through human instinct, adaptability, and courage. "You're extraordinary," Lyria said quietly when Kale returned to the shuttle. Kale shrugged, modest but confident. "Extraordinary, perhaps. Or maybe humans are just capable of things others don't expect. You'll see more of it soon." Lyria nodded. She felt a strange mix of awe and hope. The Dominion was dangerous, relentless, and cunning. But Kale Draven had shown her and her crew that humans were more than myths. They were warriors, survivors, and a force the galaxy could not ignore. That night, as the Erebus drifted through the Arendor system, the crew celebrated their victory quietly, knowing the war was far from over. Kyle stood on the observation deck looking at the stars, calm and unwavering. Lyria joined him, her eyes reflecting both worry and determination. "The Dominion won't stop," she said softly. Kale nodded. "No, they will push harder, strike faster. But humans, we endure, and we adapt. That is the advantage they will never understand." For the first time, Lyria felt a profound certainty. No matter what challenges lay ahead, with Kyle and humans by her side, they had a chance. A real chance. The galaxy was dangerous, unpredictable, and vast, but Kale Draven's presence was a beacon. A reminder that myths were real, and that humanity still held power beyond imagination, and the war to come would test every ounce of courage, skill, and instinct the galaxy had ever known. The calm after the Arendor victory was short-lived. Commander Lyria Taven stood on the bridge of the Erebus, staring at the holographic display of the surrounding sector. Reports streamed in from nearby systems. Destroyed communications arrays, abandoned planets, and fleeing civilians. The Dominion had retreated for now, but their presence loomed like a shadow, growing stronger with every passing hour. Kale Draven stood beside her, silent and watchful. He had returned from the strike mission unscathed, but the intensity in his eyes told her he was already calculating the next move. Humans thrived under pressure, she had learned, and Kale was no exception. "Commander," Lieutenant Mara said, pointing to the display, "we've intercepted new Dominion communications. They're regrouping, consolidating forces near the Orlon belt. If we don't act quickly, they'll strike multiple systems at once." Lyria exhaled slowly. "We can't split our fleets." "Not yet." She paused, glancing at Kale. "Unless..." Kale's gaze met hers, steady and calculating. "Unless we use strategy over numbers. The Dominion relies on strength and intimidation. We rely on adaptability and precision. Humans create opportunities where others see none." Lyria's mind raced. His words had proven true before, and now they were planning a move that could either turn the tide of the war or doom them all. "Then we prepare for a decisive strike," she said firmly. "Kale, you will lead a combined team of humans and our best officers. Your task is to infiltrate the Dominion fleet and disable their flagship." Kale nodded, his calm confidence unsettling in its certainty. "We strike fast, we strike together, and we leave them disoriented. Then your fleets can engage with advantage." The boarding shuttle detached from the Erebus, carrying Kale and the elite team toward the Dominion Armada. The ships they approached were massive dark silhouettes against the void, bristling with energy weapons and shields that shimmered like liquid metal. Even seasoned officers on the shuttle held their breath. "Keep formation," Kale instructed. "Move with purpose. Watch for traps. They will expect attack vectors, but they will not expect us." As they neared the flagship, Kale surveyed every detail with precision. "This is it," he said softly. "The heart of their command. Take it, and their fleet will falter." The team maneuvered through the fleet, disabling outer defenses with quiet efficiency. Kale's movements were fluid, almost instinctual. A plasma turret would flare, and he would neutralize it with precise energy pulses. Patrol drones would strike, and he would anticipate them, redirecting their energy harmlessly into space. Every action was calculated, every decision immediate yet flawless. "You humans," one officer whispered, "move like you can see the future." Kyle didn't answer. His eyes scanned the corridors of the Dominion flagship as the shuttle docked. "Inside," he said firmly. "Stay alert. They will resist." The interior of the flagship was vast, filled with corridors that twisted like a maze. Dominion forces patrolled relentlessly, their armor and weapons imposing, but Kale led the team with confidence and calm. "Watch patterns," he instructed. "Predict, adapt, and move. Speed and precision win battles here, not brute force." The first clash came quickly. A group of Dominion soldiers tried to block the team's path. Kale moved faster than anyone could anticipate, deflecting attacks, disabling weapons, and leading his team with flawless coordination. Officers who had trained for years in combat were awed by his efficiency. One officer, a young lieutenant named Corin, whispered, "He's unstoppable." Kyle glanced at him briefly. "We are unstoppable together. Trust instincts, trust each other, and follow my lead." They pushed deeper into the flagship, reaching the central command chamber. The Dominion commander awaited, flanked by elite guards. The room hummed with energy as shields and weapons primed. Kale paused, assessing the situation. "Divide and confuse," he ordered. "Attack as one unit, but appear to strike from many angles." The team moved as Kale directed, their movements fluid and synchronized. Energy beams flared, guards fell back, and the commander found himself overwhelmed by an assault that seemed impossible to coordinate. Kale struck with precision, neutralizing threats with minimal effort, yet always guiding his team to act decisively. "Human instincts," the commander sneered. "You rely on luck." Kale's eyes were steady. "We rely on experience, observation, and adaptation. That is more powerful than luck." With a final coordinated effort, Kale and his team disabled the flagship's main energy core. The ship shuddered, alarms blaring, and the Dominion fleet faltered. Without their command center, the ships drifted in confusion, some retreating, others immobilized. Back on the Erebus, Lyria watched in awe. Kale had done the impossible. Against overwhelming odds, he had turned the battlefield, proving not just his strength but the extraordinary capability of humans. "Kale," Lyria said when he returned to the bridge, You've changed everything. The Dominion will think twice before attacking again. Kale shook his head, calm and unwavering. They will strike again, always, but now they will face humans. And humans endure. The crew went to work immediately, stabilizing systems, tending to minor injuries, and assessing the battlefield. Lyria noticed a quiet shift among them. Fear was replaced with determination. Where despair might have taken root, hope now burned. And that hope was human. Hours later, as the Erebus drifted through space, Lyria and Kale stood together, looking at the stars. "The war isn't over," she said softly. "No," Kale replied. "But humans give you a chance. And that chance can change everything." The commander's gaze hardened with resolve. "Then we fight. And we fight like humans." Kale smiled faintly, a spark of satisfaction in his eyes. "Good, survival is just the beginning. Next, we show them what humans can do when we lead, when we adapt, and when we never give up." The galaxy was vast, filled with danger, uncertainty, and enemies who believed they were invincible. But Kale Draven, a single human warrior among millions, had proven that myths could be real, that humanity still held extraordinary power, and that courage, instinct, and resilience could turn the tide of war. And as the stars stretched endlessly into the dark, Lyria knew one truth above all. With humans at her side, there was no challenge too great, no enemy too strong, and no battle they could not face. The war for the galaxy had only just begun. The Erebus drifted on the edge of the Orlon belt, its sensors scanning the void for the returning Dominion fleet. Commander Lyria Taven stood on the bridge, her posture rigid, her eyes sharp. Weeks had passed since Kale Draven had led the decisive strike against the Dominion flagship. But intelligence reports warned that the enemy was regrouping and preparing a massive counterattack. "Commander," Lieutenant Mara said, her voice tight with tension, "our scouts report a fleet twice the size of what we faced before. They're advancing on multiple fronts. This could be their final strike in this sector." Lyria exhaled slowly. "Then we fight. And this time we don't just defend, we take the battle to them." Kale Draven stood beside her, calm and steady as ever. His presence radiated confidence, the kind that spread through the crew and bolstered their courage. "Humans survive," he said simply. "And we don't just survive, we fight. And we win when others would give up." Lyria glanced at him, her respect growing with every passing day. The myths about humans being extinct had been shattered. Kale's actions had proven not only that humans existed, but that they were extraordinary warriors, capable of turning the tide of a battle against impossible odds. "Prepare the fleet," she commanded. "We go on the offensive. Kale, you will lead the boarding teams and the special strike units. This will require everything you have." Kale nodded, his blue eyes steady. "Understood. Remember, instincts guide humans. Trust them and trust each other. The Dominion expects conventional moves. We will do the unexpected." The fleet moved into position like a predator surrounding its prey. The Dominion fleet, massive and menacing, waited for the attack, confident that numbers and firepower would ensure victory. But they had not counted on humans, or Kale. As the battle commenced, the void lit up with beams of energy, shields flaring, and explosions rippling through space. The Dominion forces advanced relentlessly, aiming to overwhelm the Erebus and its allied ships. Yet Kale's strategy unfolded with precision. He directed smaller strike units to flank the enemy, using unpredictable patterns to confuse and divide them. One Dominion cruiser would face a sudden barrage from multiple directions, unable to predict the assault. Another would find its shields disabled almost instantaneously, caught off guard by Kale's unorthodox tactics. "Humans fight differently," Mara whispered to Lyria. "They anticipate, adapt, and exploit weaknesses others don't even notice." Lyria nodded, her gaze fixed on Kale as he moved among the units, guiding them with subtle gestures and commands. "He's not just leading," she said quietly. "He's rewriting the rules of engagement." Suddenly, a Dominion battleship broke through the lines, its energy weapons charging toward the Erebus. Mara shouted, "They're targeting the flagship!" Kale's eyes narrowed. "Divert the fire. Move unpredictably. We cannot let them pin you down." In a display that left everyone awestruck, Kale's instincts guided the fleet. The ships twisted and weaved, dodging energy blasts that should have destroyed them. At the same time, Kale directed counterattacks that struck the Dominion ships with precision. disabling weapons and engines in rapid succession. Humans survive, Kale repeated to himself, moving from one unit to another, ensuring their safety while maximizing their effectiveness. The battle raged for hours, each moment more intense than the last. Dominion reinforcements poured in, but Kale's strategy turned what should have been chaos into coordinated strikes. The enemy could not adapt fast enough to human unpredictability, and slowly their formation began to crumble. Lyria watched the battlefield unfold, her heart pounding. Every instinct she had as a commander told her this should be impossible. Yet here it was, a human warrior, leading a strike that defied all expectations and defied the overwhelming odds of the Dominion fleet. Then, a new threat appeared. The Dominion unleashed their secret weapon, a massive, heavily armored battleship bristling with energy cannons and shields designed to withstand any conventional attack. It moved toward the Erebus, and the fleet faltered, unsure how to confront it. Kale stepped forward, calm and determined. "This is what humans do best," he said to Lyria and the boarding teams. "We find a way where others see none. Follow me." The boarding shuttles detached, carrying Kyle and his elite teams directly toward the massive battleship. While the fleet engaged in distraction, Kyle's units infiltrated the enemy vessel with unmatched precision. Energy fields flared, alarms blared, and Dominion soldiers scrambled to respond. But Kyle anticipated every move. "Divide their attention," Kyle instructed. "One group disables their weapons, another takes control of the engine systems. Move fast, strike hard, and never hesitate." In a series of rapid, coordinated strikes, Kale's team disabled the battleship's main cannons, disrupted the shields, and overrode the control systems. Within moments, a ship that should have been untouchable was at their mercy. Lyria, observing from the Erebus, could hardly believe what she was seeing. "He's doing the impossible again," she muttered. Kale's calm confidence inspired the team. Even when the Dominion forces tried desperate counterattacks, his strategy kept them off balance. By the time the boarding team secured the ship, the Dominion fleet was in full retreat, disorganized and demoralized. The battle was over. The Erebus and its allies had survived the largest assault the sector had ever seen. Dominion forces had been shattered, their secret weapon captured, and the remaining ships forced into retreat. The crew erupted in cheers, celebrating the improbable victory. Kale Draven, standing among them, did not boast or gloat. He simply watched, calm and measured, as the humans and allied officers absorbed what had just occurred. Lyria approached him, her eyes filled with admiration. "Kale, you've changed everything. The Dominion underestimated us. Underestimated humans. You've given us hope, and more than that, you've shown us what humans can do." Kyle shook his head slightly. "I didn't win alone. Humans survive because we adapt, we fight, and we work together. Today we proved that humans inspire more than fear. They inspire courage." The fleet slowly regrouped, tending to damage and rescuing surviving crews from disabled ships. Lyria stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. She had witnessed something extraordinary. The return of humans, not as myths, but as warriors capable of facing overwhelming odds and emerging victorious. "Commander," Mara said quietly, I think the galaxy will never be the same." Lyria nodded. "No. And with humans leading the way, maybe it's finally a galaxy worth fighting for." Kale looked at her, a faint smile on his face. "We've survived. We've fought. And we've shown them what humans are capable of. But the war is far from over. There will be more battles, more challenges, but humans endure. And we fight when others would give up." That night, the crew of the Erebus celebrated quietly, honoring their victory and the extraordinary power of the human warrior among them. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. But for the first time in years, the galaxy felt alive with possibility. Lyria and Kyle stood side by side on the observation deck. "You were right," she said softly. "Humans are more than legends. They are extraordinary." Kale's blue eyes met hers, calm and unwavering. "Legends are born from truth. Humans endure because we never stop, never surrender, and never give up. That is who we are. That is why the galaxy needs us now." For the first time, Lyria allowed herself to believe fully. Humans were no longer extinct. They were real, powerful, and essential. They could inspire, lead, and protect, not just their own species, but the entire galaxy. The stars outside the Erebus shone with quiet brilliance, reflecting the hope that now burned in every crew member's heart. And as the galaxy slept, Recovering from the largest battle it had ever witnessed, Lyria knew one truth above all. Humans were not just warriors. They were the spark that could ignite courage, strength, and survival across the stars. And with Kale Draven standing beside her, the galaxy's future suddenly seemed full of possibilities. The war had been won for now, but humanity had returned, and the universe would never forget the power of humans again.